Hello, today is January 30th, 2008. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live from Jerusalem with an edition of Fact Without Commentary. For those of you who were unable to watch the entirety of the State of the Union address given by President George W. Bush 2 days ago, this special edition of Fact Without Commentary will highlight a few of his comments in that address, which was just short of 1 hour in length. The comments of Mr. Bush in that address touched on many issues which Americans think are important. He also mentioned his philosophy about issues which will be part of the voter evaluation process before the presidential election in November of 2008. The President received many standing ovations from the entire 110th Congress during the course of his speech. A theme throughout the course of the President's remarks was the power of the individual, and I quote, "the power and resilience of self-government," end quote. In admonition to the Congress concerning the upcoming elections, the President remarked, and I quote, "Let us show our fellow Americans that we can compete for votes and cooperate for results," end quote. Concerning federal taxes, Mr. Bush asked the Congress to make tax relief permanent and stated unequivocally that he will veto all tax increase legislation that makes its way to his desk for the remainder of his term. And relative to government spending, Mr. Bush used the typical American family as an example, and I quote, "American families have to balance their budget, so should their government," end quote. He admonished both parties on this topic by stating that if earmarked funding is worthwhile, then Congress should be willing to debate the earmark in session and then hold a public vote for the record. Concerning legislation that is earmarked after debate and vote, effectively sending to the executive office legislation that has not been publicly debated, Mr. Bush stated that he would veto all such legislation sent to the Oval Office for his signature. Concerning government intervention for regulation, Mr. Bush stated, and I quote, "expand consumer choice, not government control," end quote. After noting the statistics concerning the scholastic accomplishment of young American children, Mr. Bush asked the Congress to strengthen the No Child Left Behind Act. Mr. Bush also discussed America's burgeoning energy needs. He called for a renewed look at domestic coal energy resources and associated technologies. Furthermore, he specifically asked Congress to fund research for sustainable energy resources, including battery-powered private transportation. He stated that he hopes that the buying, selling, cloning, or patenting of human life will never be legalized. And concerning his nominees for judicial office, Mr. Bush called for, and I quote, "a prompt up or down vote on judicial nominees," end quote. Furthermore, he asked the 110th Congress to make the initiative Charitable Choice permanent. He also announced to a standing ovation of all members of Congress that the city of New Orleans has been chosen to host the 2008 North American Summit. On immigration and the illegal entry of foreigners through America's southern border, Mr. Bush called for enforcement with sensitivity. He even suggested that legislation is needed to outline a legal method for foreign workers to enter, and I quote, "work and support the American economy," end quote. On the international scene, the President had just as much to say. He stated that America has an international duty to oppose terrorism and said that America would confront all of her enemies abroad, advance liberty, and deliver justice to her enemies. The President mentioned several nations who export and finance terrorism, principally Iran. Mr. Bush stated that America has no quarrel with the people of Iran, and he called on those in power in Iran to permit that country's return to the community of nations. Concerning the Persian Gulf, the President stated that America would confront those who threaten her troops, that we will support our allies, and that America will defend her vital interests in the Persian Gulf. Mr. Bush expressed concern that legislation permitting the monitoring of terror-oriented communications would expire on the 1st of February 2008. He asked the 110th Congress to ensure legislatively that authorized government personnel retain the legal capacity to monitor terrorist communication and to thus ensure the flow of vital intelligence information is not interrupted. Mr. Bush specifically stated that he opposes the genocide occurring in the Sudan and called for a freer, hopeful, more compassionate world in conjunction with his statement condemning that genocide. No less than 3 times during his dissertation, the President of the United States of America expressed his personal and the collective gratitude of all of America for the service of every branch of the military now serving the United States of America. Indeed, that was one of his final comments. After expressing his gratitude, the President's closing words were, and I quote, "God bless America." And that concludes the special edition of Fact Without Commentary. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live in snowy Jerusalem from Rome 552 for Israel 24/6 TV. Thank you and Shalom.